Today we're going to harvest some of the leafy green cruciferous vegetables. Russian red kale, as you see here. Over here, 1,000-head kale, and Nero di Toscana cabbage. These vegetables are loaded in vitamin A and fiber, calcium and iron. They're really excellent for the immune system, for the blood, for muscles, you name it, it's good for it. Also for vision. So right now I'm cutting the Nero di Toscana cabbage. This has its origins in Italy. Right now I'm harvesting 1,000-head kale, and this has its origins in England. I have seeds from all over the world, from 6 of the 7 continents, and I really enjoy expanding my family's palate by always having something new and unique for them to eat. The nutrient density of everything we grow is really incomparable to anything that could be found in the store. These are not conventionally produced. These are all heirloom organic, and they produce wonderful seeds that we use every time we plant. Sometimes 1,000-head kale can grow to be 3 feet. That means each leaf can reach 3 feet in length. This year they haven't gotten quite that big, but also it's been a lot drier. But we do have them in big enough bunches to still enjoy their product. So you see here, even these baby leaves, everything has use. We don't waste any part of it. We also eat the stems as far as we can until the stems get to be too woody. Now we're going to cut some of the leaves from the Russian red kale. And you guessed it, the origins are from Russia. These are really nutrient dense powerhouses. They have purple and green. We all know what that means. That means extra antioxidants. And the purple color indicates anthocyanins. Sometimes they get this funny pattern where leaves are coming and growing off the leaves. Look at that. It's very unique to this plant. I've never seen that on anything else I've ever grown. The Russian red kale and the cabbage, Nero di Toscana cabbage, and the 1,000-head kale are soon going to be washed, patted dry, and cut small for the freezer, because freezing helps retain nutritional value. And that's why I don't do any canning, because many of the nutrients, vitamin A, and I believe calcium, could be some others. I know for sure vitamin A gets reduced considerably, by more than 50%. So we just either dry things or we put them in the freezer for long-term use. So right now we're going to dig up the round black Spanish radish. And this one grew randomly because we did not plant the seeds here. This is the job of a bird or any other type of animal, perhaps a squirrel, that had gotten a hold of the seeds last year and dropped in here. So this is the first time to dig up this big one. Look at these greens. These are all edible. Purple stems, and look at the size of that. Beneath the brown, it's going to be bigger. Let's see what we get. We've been waiting to dig this one up for a long, long time. We let it grow as much as possible before flowering. We do have plenty that we let go to seed, to harvest their seeds. And this one, we wanted it to get big enough to really enjoy eating it, but not let it go yet to seed. Let's see how it turns out. Hey, that's a pretty one. Look at this. Oh my goodness, everybody. We're gonna knock all this off, of course. We're gonna use a power washer and our hose to really clean him up before he comes in the house. But look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, this will feed my whole family for our raw vegetable portion of the meal. And look at all those leaves. Oh, scrumptious. You'll notice about radish leaves that they are a bit prickly. You can feel them, but they are not harmful. So we wash everything very, very well, aggressively with a vegetable brush and a power washer setting, usually the shower setting or the jet setting. And we clean them thoroughly, and then we enjoy eating them raw. They're often really good with yogurt, with a really sour yogurt. Look at that, folks. We've been waiting a few months to dig this guy up, and here he is. Round black Spanish radish. Right now, I'm going to be harvesting some arugula. This is one of the most nutrient-dense vegetables on earth. We have 3 varieties growing in our garden this year, and we're going to expand it in our fall planting for our crops that we'll be picking probably through November, because a lot of these vegetables really enjoy the cool weather and they're more productive then. All heirloom varieties, absolutely delicious. And again, they are nutrient powerhouses, which people really need to be mindful of how they're taking care of themselves. Right now I'm going to cut some purslane. If you remember last week we talked about purslane. And here we have it. So you see this beautiful vegetable that most people think is a weed. It does grow quite aggressively. You'll find it in sidewalk cracks, driveway cracks, any kind of rock bed, any kind of farmland, even randomly through a yard. But this is an omega-3 fat rich vegetable. It's worth a lot of money in a specialty store. I used to pay $9.99 a pound for this. And yes, I actually bought it because I wasn't content with the amount that was in my yard, and I knew it was so rich that I actually went out and bought more. And then of course, once you plant it, it really is very happy. It takes off, its seeds are very productive, and it yields little black seeds. Right now I'm picking Aronia berries. I have more that became dark enough to pick. Remember, this is the Viking variety. That's what's available in our area presently. Nutrient dense, like everything else we grow. Good health is very important. I'm going to reach in and get these. Most of these are ready. Look at those. Aren't they beautiful? Oh my goodness, so dark and rich. I have to be careful because that very aggressive blackberry bramble keeps wanting to encroach on the Aronia berry patch. And here we have some more. You see here some more clusters of Aronia berries, and some of them are still a bit reddish and some of them are dark purple. I'm going to leave these for about another day, 2 days maximum, and then pick them when they're all dark purple. These are still fresh enough and firm enough that they will not get spoiled. Right now I'm going to harvest some of the basil, and I have many varieties, some cinnamon, some lemon, some Genovese basil. I have Siam Queen. I also have Ghana basil, Avivi Nature basil, many other varieties, and I'm going to harvest some because herbs are very essential to good health, keeping the blood and the cells clean. That's cinnamon basil. I have a few cinnamon basil plants. Gotta be careful not to cut off the parts that are producing seeds, because we definitely will be gathering them when they're dry and storing them. We store some for us, and we store some for sale. Here's a nice bumblebee playing right around me here. This is spicy globe basil. Right here, this is Ghana basil. This comes from Ghana, Africa. Very delicious variety. Oh wow, this one is a powerhouse. Very potent flavor. And the same goes for the African Newnham basil. These remind me of a very spicy oregano, these two varieties. Here we have lemon basil, and this goes very, very fast when my children are outside in the herb bed and just getting as much as they can. They seem to really like the lemon basil best. I can't blame them, it's actually my favorite, that and the lime. Here we're going to cut some more cinnamon basil. And here's a little bit of sweet basil. I just cut them as I can because they're so close together. Whatever I can get, I'm grateful for them. And I'm going to cut a little bit of this guy right here. That's a spicy globe basil. These will be washed very thoroughly and frozen. And I'll use them in sauces. I'll use them in eggs to scramble, etc. This is a very small amount. We have a lot more that I'll be harvesting later. Hi everybody. Right now we're at the rhubarb patch. So I have two different varieties of rhubarb. I've already cut all of them down, all throughout here and behind me, and harvested, and this is the new growth. So I'm going to let these mature a little bit longer, and then I will cut them before the season's end. I'll probably cut a couple of these bigger ones right now because they're nice and potent and strong looking, and I want to be able to enjoy them before they start to wilt. And as always, I cut off the leaves before taking them into the house so that they're not cut off in the home and then possibly mistaken for edible leaves. Rhubarb leaves are not edible, so I recommend that you cut them off out in the garden, let them decompose, and put nutrition back in the soil. And here we have just a few stalks of rhubarb. I had harvested buckets full about a month and a half ago. Now I'm at the children's garden, and this is a garden I planted in honor of all my children, and there are flowers and different types of plants here that are the favorites of them. Right now, most of the blooms have dried and we're waiting for the new buds to open. At this time, I'm going to harvest some peppermint. One of my daughters is very fond of making fresh mint tea. So she comes to this garden and the main food garden to get her leaves of the varieties, from the varieties of mint that I grow. So I have spearmint, peppermint, apple mint, lemon mint, chocolate mint, which is really the family favorite. That has a really nice flavor and a beautiful appearance as well. And here I'm cutting the peppermint. So this is going to be made into tea, and I'll also freeze a lot of it to use it when I'm cooking lamb. I cover lamb with mint when I'm cooking it, especially when baking it in the oven. It gives tremendous flavor, nutrition, and aroma throughout the whole house. It makes the whole house smell like mint jelly. Right now I'm at the Concord Grape Garden. So this is just a little area that I have sectioned off. These are all new young plants this year, and they've really produced some nice leaves. These leaves can be used in dolma if I choose to cut them. The fruit hasn't come on yet simply because they are so young. Here's another one. This one, the leaves yellowed a little bit, but with some nourishment from water and some sunshine, it'll be okay. It's the drought that's been affecting everything. but still we're getting growth, which is wonderful. And here's the third one that's productive. We have some others that haven't produced leaves yet. They're very, very young. Concord grapes. You can't really improve upon Concord grapes. Hey everybody, I wanted to talk a little bit about necessities for survival and encourage you to store, as I've been talking about that for the last few weeks. Store a little at a time as you can, remembering that prices are continuing to climb and other people have the same needs as you. So be courteous, don't take everything off the shelves, but get a little bit each week and at least enough to store for 6 months to a year and maybe longer, because in my opinion, the prices are not going to get any lower and our times are getting tougher because so many people are losing hours at work because of the economy. So here are just a few items that represent the basic ideas of necessities for survival. Besides shelter and proper transportation, you want to be able to stay warm. So one thing for the upcoming winter would be alternate sources of heat. Any other way to get heat in case you run out of propane, or the heating bill, if you have an electric system, is just too much. If you have any other way of safely generating heat, think of that. Of course, you have to think of the structure of your home or where the heating will be happening. Definitely you want to make sure you have plenty of warm blankets, socks, gloves, scarves, and hats and coats. Those are basics. Another item that's absolutely essential, and you got to buy a little bit extra each week, would be something as simple as water. Spring water, in some cases people need distilled water, depends on the need, but definitely water. And certainly I have more than one bottle, I have several cases of these, and I buy another one each week and just add to it in case we can't get to the store or the prices get to be just too prohibitive. Another thing you want to have plenty of, especially as the winter comes, if you live in an area where there's a lot of inclement weather, ice and snow on the ground, you want to have your basic hygiene products saved. So just some toothpaste, extra toothpaste, bath soap. I found this at Dollar General for $1, so I stocked up on those. Make sure you have flashlights and batteries to go with them. Make sure everything is working. Make sure you also have candles and matches. I don't have them represented here, but I do have them in the home stored. Needles and thread for any repairs. You don't want to throw away everything that you have that has a little tear. Basic skills such as sewing can really prolong the life of fabric. Make sure you have plenty of cleaning supplies. It doesn't have to be exotic. It doesn't have to be perfect. Wherever you can make your money stretch the most during this time would be my advice. I've used a lot of baking soda and vinegar also. I'm also fond of bleach, which I know is rather caustic, but I do use it when I need to deeply disinfect fabric or some areas in the kitchen or bathrooms. I use that as an extra precaution against germs and any kind of contamination. And then I hot water and clean it and get all the remnants away. So I would say stock up on cleaning supplies. When you see a big sale or a store that you know has the same products as the main more expensive stores, go where the price is the best, where you can stretch your dollars. Dried food goods are really important. You want to have a cool, dark place, pantry, cabinet, wherever, where the room temperature does not get hot, where it stays relatively the same. So here I have some wild black rice, some black barley. These are a type of date. They're rather exotic and rare. They're called senjie. Here it says senjid, but in a language that I use, they're called senjie. Here I have some raisins. Those have been dived into by my children. I can't keep raisins fast enough in this house. And here, these are some basic black-eyed peas. We often buy the 25-pound sacks and put them in jars. I didn't want to bring one of those up on the table. It's rather heavy for me. So here's a small representation. Get some rice, get some beans, and as always when you're storing your food, even if something is less expensive or there's a special sale for the moment, you want to always keep in mind the family's nutritional needs. So if anybody has autoimmune disorders, you definitely know we're not going to be feeding that person any form of grain, any form of beans or seeds, because they can be inflammatory, even if those grains or beans or seeds don't have lectins and if they don't have gluten. for people with autoimmune diseases, they still have an inflammatory effect. We like to get a variety of beans. We get kidney beans, black beans, lots of lentils, and split peas of all the different colors, and we make good use making stews with them. Some other items that we have in the pantry, we have some wild fish that's been tinned, and it has the least amount of contaminants in them. So it's just olive oil, sea salt, and fish. This one has some peppers and olives added to it. It's Mediterranean style mackerel. Sardines we have. These are so important, everybody, because they're very good for the brain, for the immune system, for the heart, for your vision and skin. You definitely want to load up on sardines. We also have some chum salmon, which of the chum, the pink, and the red in cans, the chum has the highest amount of omega-3 fats. So I only used to buy, exclusively, I used to buy the red, the wild red sockeye. I still buy that, and then I buy it fresh when I can get it, and then I buy a lot of the chum because of the highest level of those three, of the omega-3 fats. Also, you want to keep on hand some anti-inflammatory spices. Here I have a big container of what's called haldi powder or turmeric powder. So this is powderized, and it's really great as an anti-inflammatory. It has a good amount of iron in it. And as you know, it's very famous for reducing and even shrinking and eliminating cancer cells, etc. I can say these things with some authority, being that I am an holistic healthcare provider specializing in nutrition. And whenever you consume the turmeric powder, you want to have black pepper with it. The black pepper helps to activate the curcumin to make it more bioavailable. So this is very effective in reducing and in many cases eliminating autoimmune disorders, digestive problems, and cancer. It's a wonderful spice to have. And we also have the rhizomes that I had purchased and frozen. So we use those in curries and in different kinds of soups. Here we just have some store-bought Italian seasoning. I also make my own with my fresh herbs from the garden. It's always good to have something dried in case you've used everything from your garden and the freezing, the freezer supply has been used. Also, we have right here cayenne pepper. This is really important for circulation. It's very good for ladies and girls, and it's very good for the immune system. And here we have some Himalayan pink salt. I like the coarse grind. I also have fine, but I seem to enjoy the coarse grind. I think it looks good, and of course the flavor is more apparent with the larger crystals. You want to have on hand some tape. You want to have ropes, chains, yarn, anything that can be used to bind, even twine, because you never know when you have to gather things and hold them together. This is just obviously a small representation of things that can be used to hold things together. Another thing you want to have on hand are small hand tools. Here I just brought in some of the garden tools, but you want to have hammers, nails, screws, screwdrivers, levels, basic things like that, and garden tools, because it's very important to be able to be independent. You can't call a repair person for everything. And as I always emphasize, seeds, seeds, and more seeds. I would say that seeds and water and tinned fish would probably be my picks for the top items to store en masse because of their importance. If you don't have seeds, you don't have food. Not everything is going to be available from a store anymore. And even if you can only grow from a few pots in a sunny window, that's better than nothing. Right here I have one of my curry trees. I'm very fond of this plant. It has the most wonderful aroma and taste, and it's nutrient packed. You'll notice that I use that term quite often because high nutrition keeps the health up. It's one of the main factors of good health. You want to have an intense amount of vitamins and minerals. And this is used in my misi roti that I make, the flat Asian Indian bread, and I have my own original recipe. I don't use the mix of flours. That's pretty standard because there's soy in that flour, and I don't use anything with soy. So this is the curry tree. I use it in my curries. I use it even in fish and vegetable soups, and I use it in Asian Indian breads, even sometimes just in rice, and it gives a wonderful, soft, almost like a shiny green hue to the food that's put in, and you can see the oils coming from it into the water as it's being boiled, and you know you're getting a lot of nutrition when you're eating that soup or the curry that you're making, which is it's a form of a soup. These, along with some whole grain berries that I would recommend them, are what I would recommend the most to store in large quantities. You want to keep your herbs and spices, your tinned food, your beans and grains, and you want to keep your seeds. You want to keep these in cool, dark places where there's not a lot of high traffic. Definitely, as I said, cool and dark. You don't want light shining on them because that makes them degrade much more quickly. You want to keep them fresh and useful for a very long time. Okay, right here I want to show you some whole hard red winter wheat berries. These are useful in soups. They're also useful in baking. I make many different types of breads with them, as well as boiling them and using them like one would use barley. So these can be made into flour. I can grind them if I really want to work at it and take a long time with a mortar and pestle, or use a grinding machine. There is one model that I'm going to be getting. I haven't gotten it yet, but that is able to grind beans and whole grains like this into flour. This is useful. This is 100% pure heirloom organic, raised by a farmer neighbor and given to our family as a gift. It was completely unexpected. We had just moved to the area and we were so appreciative. I have several 5-gallon buckets full to the brim of this. Another item you want to have on hand, besides high quality flour and grains and even vegetable forms that can be turned into flour, would be some yeast. This is basic yeast, and things to kind of embellish bread that you make, such as sesame seeds. We have sesame, we have poppy, we have flax, we have hemp seeds, we have chia seeds, all of that. I recommend those because they add nutrition, they add mass, so there's more consumption to fill the person, and they can keep a long time. All these dry goods can keep a long time in a cool, dark pantry or cabinet. These are my recommendations for the time being, as well as butter. You want to have plenty of butter, and especially if you know how to turn the butter into ghee. So that's a demonstration that I will give at a different time. You all have a wonderful day, and God bless you.